built a platform called Bayuti. It's an app that the banks won't like. How is it that Muslims can invest into property as little as £50?
Basically, what we do is we create SPVs and people invest in shares of these SPVs. Then the SPV collects the rent and distributes it to its shareholder. If you invest £50, you have 50 shares. I started in wealth management, asset management. When you want to build up a portfolio, you don't start with Bitcoin as your first investment you're going to do. People don't understand the risk that it takes to invest in Bitcoin. Sometimes mixing investments with gambling. Can you actually be Sharia compliant and be a bank in today's world? My personal vision on that, no. The whole ecosystem is built for conventional finance. Everything is built up against Sharia compliant. People are actually starting with 50% of their savings into very high risky assets. Whatever the Islamic banks are doing will do completely the opposite. Your £1,000 might not make a difference, but 10,000 people like you with £1,000 will start making a little bit of a dent. We can control our own political and financial future, whereby today we are not. Golden rule in terms of investment.
Assalamu alaikum, Anwar. How are you?
Salam, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so you have built a platform called Bayuti.
Indeed.
But before we go into that, how is it that Muslims can invest into property as little as £100? Or in your case, £50?
Indeed. So basically what we do is that we create SPVs, which stands for Special Purpose Vehicle, which effectively is a company. And people invest in shares of these SPVs. And the only reason why we have these SPVs is to hold the assets. So these SPVs don't have any staff or any kind of liability. And we sell shares of those SPVs. So if a property, for example, worth £250,000, we raise £250,000. We issue 250,000 shares to the investors. And every investor basically can buy a minimum of 50 shares into that particular SPV. Then the SPV collects the rent and distributes it to its shareholder, a pro rata of their owning.
And the shares they will get is equivalent to whatever they invest, basically.
Yeah. So every share worth £1, and if you invest £50, you have 50 shares. If you invest £100, you have 100 shares.
So what was a problem that you saw that you felt, okay, we need to start something like this?
Yeah, so I worked quite a bit in the Gulf region, and the high net worth individual in that region are obviously are Muslims and wanted to invest in Sharia compliant assets. So when you invest in stocks and even the sukuk market, there is always question mark on how Sharia compliant this is. And this is when you look at high net worth individual in the Gulf, and I'm not exaggerating anything. It's actually like those kind of numbers. You will see that 80 to 90% of their wealth is actually invested in real estate, and the other part is cash and local stock market. That's basically what they have. But the problem is most people can't invest in a single property by themselves, because most people cannot go and just buy a house or a few houses, overnight, just like that. So this asset class, which basically, high net worth individual build up wealth on it, and it's one of the favorite asset class for Muslim, is actually out of reach for most of the Muslims. So here is basically the problem. Is you have an asset class that is clearly, there is no real question about, especially if it's residential.
Yeah.
Is it Sharia compliant or not? Except if you add a mortgage on it, then that's another question. But if as an asset class itself, it's clearly Sharia compliant, but it was out of reach for most Muslims. So the idea was like, okay, let's make this asset class more affordable to investors that don't have £100,000 to invest.
So what's the reason that you've got the rich and high net worth people from the Gulf? What's the reason that they invest 80% into real estate as opposed to other things such as stocks, gold, crypto?
Frankly speaking, when I'm talking to them, is just going to the basics. Most people understand the basics of buying a home, renting it. It's not overly complicated. Whereby when you start talking about investing in the stock market or in gold, or there is a question on, like invest in a stock, like, okay, a company, how do you value a company? You can see a company worth 100 today, worth 200 tomorrow, and then in 2 years' time it's bankrupt. So the level of understanding that you need to have to invest in those asset classes it's more complex, to understand. Whereby at the end of the day, property, it's brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So the value might increase by 10% or decrease by 10%, but you will never see a property value goes to zero. I mean, can't really think of a scenario where the property value goes to zero. So it's more stable, and people, especially when you are wealthy and you already made the money, you are not looking to make to double or triple your money. What you are looking for is more stable assets
value
that can bring income
Yeah.
and finance your lifestyle, or continue to increase the size of your portfolio as time goes by. So yeah, I think that's the most reason. It's real assets.
It's a real asset.
Yeah.
No, it's true. So before you started Bayuti, what did you notice that Muslims were investing in? So was it they were just investing in stocks but didn't know much about it? Because the one key difference with property crowdfunding to stocks or crypto is, regardless of what happens, property crowdfunding gives you a return. So even if you put £100, you'll get £6 a year regardless. And maybe the £100 may be worth £110 by the end of the year as well. But what were Muslims doing beforehand that you saw with their £100?
Frankly speaking, nothing. So and I think this is a big waste, because most Muslim people don't invest. I think even and it's not something specific to the UK, but I think financial literacy is very low, and we can see it with the interaction that we have today with investors. The understanding of investment, what investment is and how it works. The public understanding is close to zero. I'm not pushing it. It's really close to zero. People don't understand, the risk that it takes to invest in Bitcoin. And you will have people, on social media that will go and explain to you that Bitcoin worth $200,000, and they are talking with such certainty and conviction that you're like, yeah, this guy must know what he's talking about. But in reality, like, what's the value of Bitcoin? Here you go. Let's go. If you tell me Bitcoin worth $1, I say yes. If you tell me Bitcoin worth $100,000, I say yes as well. It depends on how much you want to pay for it. But in reality, what value does it create? Nothing. Economical value. What use does it have? Not much. So except in like very special circumstances, like for example, if you're in Lebanon and your banking system is on the floor, then you might prefer being paid in Bitcoin. But for like the everyday UK investor, why would you hold those kind of assets? But like again, people. My background, I started in wealth management, asset management. So even when you want to build up a portfolio, you don't start with Bitcoin as your first investment you're going to do. You go like bit by bit. You build up the base, and then at the end of the process, if you want a highly speculative investment, then you put maybe 1 or 2%, in something like Bitcoin. Here it's like the other way around. People are actually, starting with 50% of their savings into very high risky assets. So so like I said, most of the time, unfortunately, it was either nothing, and this is a huge waste, or actually things that are like super risky, trying to get rich kind of scheme. But actually building up wealth through a strategy and a systematic behavior, it's not something that is really happening. And this is why also we set up that business.
The thing with Bitcoin itself is, I don't know what the value is now, but even if it's 300,000 or 100,000, there's a point where it was at 60, then it was at 20, and when a person only has £1,000 to invest, and they've seen it go from 60 to 20, the one thing they can do is panic, take the money out, and they're left with 200, 250. Whereas if you put that same £1,000 into Bayuti or property crowdfunding, then it's as simple as that £1,000. You can't guarantee anything in life, but 99% it won't hit 250 unless there's been a massive demolition and there's been a problem there. So that £1,000, probably minimum it will probably go to is £900 if there's been a drop in value. But most of the time it will be 1,000, 1,050 plus you'll get your £60, £70.
Exactly.
So I think that's the key thing about property.
No, indeed.
In general. So with the problem that you saw, that Muslims weren't investing and there's a lack of financial literacy and a lack of financial education, what was the kind of research that you did to say, yes, this is the correct way? Because to become a crowdfunding property platform taking sums as minimal as £50, there's a whole FCA rigorous process that you need to do. So what made you think, you know what, this is still the right way? Because it probably took 9, 12, 18 months even.
Yes. No, so we went through the whole process of getting regulated by the FCA. Alhamdulillah, we got our FCA license a few years ago now. But, at the end of the day, so I was working for an Islamic bank, and we were managing hundreds of millions of pounds in different asset classes. But when I got into that industry, Islamic finance, when I was way younger and with more hair, the aim was to actually offer an alternative to conventional finance. That was really what I thought, back in the days, But the problem that I realized, working for an Islamic bank, is that the whole ecosystem that you have is built for conventional finance. So even if the Islamic banks try as much as they can to create a Sharia compliant product, ultimately everything is built up against Sharia compliant financing or investment. Everything. The rating agencies, that rates those banks, if they see that they have contracts where there is risk and reward sharing, they're going to ask more reserves than a bank that just give loans with collateral. So rating agencies, if you show them structures like commodity murabaha, they will give you a better rating than if the same amount of money that the bank have will be invested into a musharaka kind of structure. So the rating agencies are against. The regulator, same thing. They know how the financial markets and everything works on the conventional market. They don't like when you start doing things that are a little bit off or on the edge, because this is a little bit outside their comfort zone as well. So everything is built against Islamic banks, and this is why they have such a hard time to come with a different value proposition. And maybe this is almost a philosophical question. Is can you actually be Sharia compliant and be a bank in today's world? My personal vision on that, having worked now for almost 2 decades in the industry, is that no. I mean, ultimately you are running with one leg and one arm, behind your back. You can't compete. And users, they're going to come and say, okay, HSBC versus an Islamic bank, and knowing that Islamic bank have all the issues that HSBC doesn't have, it's just the competition is not even close. So this is why I tried, when I was working with Islamic banks, I tried to push for a different way of doing things, but then I realized very quickly that I was the virus in the system more than anything else, because like everybody was like, no, we can't, no, we can't, no, we can't. So this is why I thought, okay, maybe instead of trying to do things in an Islamic bank, maybe let me try to start from ground zero, and build it up, bit by bit. And it has been almost 10 years now that we have been, going at this. And I think, like at the end of the day, it's something that's very important, especially for Muslims, because riba is something, it's something that should be avoided at all cost. But I think people are, again, not maybe educated enough on the finance side to really understand the damage that riba is doing, and how important actually it is to avoid riba, and the lack of product as well, because alhamdulillah, we have more and more product coming into the market, and that's good. But one of the reasons why I decided to create this company is that there were no products that were not built for high net worth individuals.
Because
Because
high
again,
net worth.
yeah, because again, like when you look at the product in the market, if you have £5 million, a financial institution, might decide to create a special product for you if you want to invest £5 million in it. But for the average person on the street that have £1,000, no banks is going to be interested, So, and again, because it takes time, it takes resources, it takes dedication, and you need to be almost a little bit crazy to actually go at it, because the stack are definitely against you, as a fintech in general, but as an Islamic fintech, it's even tougher.
It's kind of like our bread and butter, really, because it's, and to be honest, it's an app that the banks won't like, because the money's not in the bank.
Yeah.
So it's working against the system, but at the same time, it's fully halal. It's very simple, because everyone knows property. You buy a property and you get rent,
Yeah.
and when you sell it, you make a profit. So everyone knows that
Yeah, the
that
business.
basic. So in reality, it's a very good app. But there's also been other apps who've tried similar, and they've not worked as well, or they've lost the trust of the community. How are you going to mitigate that?
I mean the things that differentiate us from those people, that after 10 years we're still around, and we have been regulated by the FCA for a good 5-6 years now, directly licensed by the FCA for that long, and the amount of complaints that we got over this last 6 years, I think, is about 2. When you deal with thousands and thousands, and there is one thing of being Sharia compliant, as a brand, saying that you're Sharia compliant and everything, and actually implement Sharia compliant outside of purely financial. So every time we have a problem with a customer or whatever, we are in the ethical space, right? So we look at it, and we are not, a greedy capitalist that just look after the money. We always think, okay, what we should do in this situation? What is the fair outcome for the customer? So the FCA is asking you that, as well anyway. But there is also like a moral, layer in top of it. And alhamdulillah, I think like all in all, we are one of the oldest Islamic fintech today in the market, and alhamdulillah, people didn't lose any money, with us so far. So inshallah, it will continue, and so basically just treating customer well, and being consistent in delivering the return that we promised is the right combination, I think.
You're also IFA compliant as well, isn't it?
Yes,
The Islamic
yes,
Finance
yeah,
Advisory.
yes, indeed.
Can you tell us a bit about that? How do a lot of people know about FCA,
Yeah.
but not many people know about the IFA. So how do you become IFA compliant, and why did you feel that it's important for you to be IFA compliant?
Sure. So I think like at the end of the day, it's like halal food, right? So you have a lot of restaurants that have the halal logo, but then when you ask, show me the certification, it might not be there or might be provided by some unknown kind of entity. So here it's the same thing. It's like we want to actually show that when we say we are Sharia compliant, it's not just us saying we are Sharia compliant. And we thought that the process of actually having an independent, review by Sharia scholars that specialize in Islamic law was something that we valued and wanted to invest money in, because obviously these certifications are not free.
Yeah,
You need to pay for it.
of course.
And the process is that you submit a case that explain what is your product and what you're trying to do. Then they look at if this is beneficial for the Ummah or not.
Okay.
If it is beneficial, then you have a first meeting with them where you go and you present a little bit the structure and of the product, how it works, where they ask a few questions about it. And then you need to send all the documentation that people will see and sign.
The contracts and stuff.
Contract and stuff, yeah. Because at the end of the day, Sharia is legal, right?
Yeah, of course.
So they review all the documents. Then we have another meeting to go through the documents or any comments that they have. And this is usually at the stage where they ask us to change the wording here and there, either to make it clearer or for some other reasons. And then we present them the final version of the documents. And then after that, they issue the certification.
Okay, so there's one interesting thing you mentioned, because I thought a lot of it was about contracts. You said about it being beneficial for the Ummah. How do they determine that? Do you know?
So when before you send the file, they ask you questions. What is this product about? What is it trying to achieve?
Okay.
So and this is after it's their own, I think, assessment on that. Is this a good thing for the Ummah or not?
So obviously, if it's making people a bit more wealthy and protecting their investments, then obviously it's a benefit.
I don't think if somebody goes and create a speculative asset that invest in something where people can lose their money, and be more harmful than anything else, I don't think they will be able to pass even stage one.
You mentioned earlier that when you were working in Islamic banks, the mindset that you had is to create an alternative to conventional banks.
Yeah.
But now it seems your mindset is a lot deeper in terms of it's now about building wealth for Muslims. But what kind of mindset are you trying to create for the average person who has £100, who has £1,000? Are you trying to create like a investing mindset or a wealth building mindset? What are you trying to create with the concept of Bayuti?
Well, I think again, it's maybe a little bit philosophical, but ultimately, as a Muslim, the day of judgment, you're going to be asked a few questions, about 5 questions. Out of those 5 questions, 3 are linked with money. How did you get your money? How did you spend, your money? And this idea of we are just trustees of wealth. We don't have any money. We are just entrusted by God, and God is telling us what to do and what to do. And we will be accountable for what we've done with that money. So again, how we make that money and how we spend that money. And I think, whereby most people try to work in the non-haram industries, I don't think there is so much thought about, the money that God entrusted me with. I have a duty to deploy it in a right way, and I have a duty to actually do something with it to have a positive impact. I don't think this mindset is there today. People will be happy to just sit on 10,000 pounds for 3 years, and that will not shock anybody. If somebody comes to you and say, "Oh, for the last 3 years I had 10,000 pounds in my account," nobody will be shocked with that. Whereby actually, if you ask the question differently, as a trustee, I gave you 10,000 pounds. What did you do with it? And if you frame this question in like that, I think most people will feel uncomfortable, with answering it that way. So, yeah, I think it's what I'm trying to do is, I understand that not everybody has the financial literacy, and I understand that most people don't have tens of thousands of pounds to invest. But here with Bayuti, minimum investment is £50. You invest in property. It's a way to say, okay, I can actually make more money. With this more money, I can give more to charities, and it's all about empowering, the community, because at the end of the day, we have the numbers. But funny enough, we don't have the power. So there is a connection gap, and a platform like Bayuti is just trying to be this connector, whereby your £1,000 might not make a difference, but 10,000 people like you with £1,000, and start making a little bit of a dent. And if we have more and more people, and you keep doing this over a long period of time, then we can own assets, we can control our own political and financial future, whereby today we are not.
It seems like you've explained a lot about what the Muslim pound stands for, in terms of you build wealth, but not for ourselves. You build wealth for the benefit of your community. And with that, that's how you get power, and that's how you control certain narratives within the media, within politics, which we know that are going completely against us at the moment. And then, but it does start with money. So where before in the masajid we used to hear money is the root of all evil. When you have money, your heart is attached to a dunya. I think that narrative has to be completely flipped in terms of you're trusted with money.
Yeah.
You have to earn the right way, because obviously that will be questioned.
Yeah.
But also you have to be of benefit, and benefit doesn't mean that it happens a lot in the South Asian community. You send it back home. This is a conversation we were having off camera before you came. But you benefit for the people around you.
Indeed.
And obviously with this app, you yourself and your investors is a benefit to the community firstly. And if everyone or a lot of people adopt this mindset of building wealth positively to benefit our community, I think that you do have a potential of going a very long way, not just within yourself as a business, but as a community.
Yeah, and I think, and for me, it's even more than that, because we used to lead the way, So for me, like stage one, obviously, it is for the community, but stage two is actually for everybody, because we should be a light for society. So ultimately, you don't need to be Muslim to invest in Bayuti, right? It's the same principle that holds for Muslim can hold also for non-Muslim, but actually providing something that is good for society, backed by Islamic faith, I think it's a million times more impactful to any kind of da'wah that we can do on the street. Like if people come and invest and see that this is actually good and it's solid and it's better than conventional banking, and then at the end of all of this, it's like actually it's also rooted in Islamic belief, then that's the best that's the best outcome possible.
So if people see this as is better than conventional banking, just say a person has savings of 20,000, is it better for them to park their money in a property where it's not liquid compared to a bank?
Yeah, I mean, like again, like I think the golden rule in term of investment is diversification. So you should never like put all your money into one pot, and you should always have some money aside in case there is an issue, you lose your job or anything like that. Usually, well, this rule of thumb, in wealth management, we're saying that you should put in cash, not invest, but have cash about 6 months to 1 year of expense. That's basically what we were saying back in the days. So obviously, if you have £20,000, depending on how much you spend every month, you need to keep that. Don't touch it, don't invest it, no matter what. The problem with that bit is that inflation is eating it up, but it is liquid. Yeah. So if tomorrow you have a problem, you are not blocked, from paying your bills or having a CCJ or anything like that, because you invested all your money and now it's stuck into something that is illiquid. So this, in property, the first issue is how much capital you need to invest. The second issue is liquidity. If you want to sell a property, it takes time to find a buyer, to go through the process and everything. So because through Bayuti, you own shares in an SPV, what we launched actually today is a resale board where actually you can resell your shares to the platform to other investors, and that basically create liquidity into a liquid asset.
Okay, very interesting. We're going to play the game now. Put your palm where your mouth is.
Okay.
So it's a series of multiple choice questions. So there's 7 questions.
Okay.
And each question has a different score. So its score is between 1 to 7.
Okay.
Okay. We'll also put your score on the leaderboard.
Oh man.
like Top Gear. Oh. Okay, so question 1. What percentage of UK Muslims have never used Islamic finance products? So is it A, 26%, B, 38%, C, 49%, or D, 62%?
I would say 62.
The answer is 49%.
Okay, half, not bad.
Yeah, so almost half have never used Islamic finance products.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
It's up and coming in the last 10 years, I would say. Which threshold disqualifies a stock as Sharia compliant under the AAOIFA standards? So is it revenue from conventional insurance, which is more than 5%, interest-bearing debt, which is 30%, more than 30% of the market cap, cash and interest-earning assets being more than 10% of the market cap, or prohibited income, which is more than 1% of total income?
Nice, number 2.
Interest-bearing debt, correct.
But it's, this 30%, I always found it a little bit, random, right? Yeah. I mean, there is, the shuyukh, I know that the shuyukh, there is nothing that says 30%, by the way. It's just, a hadith from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that, one of his companions wanted to give away. And he wanted to give away everything, and he said, and the Prophet ﷺ said 30%, and 30% is a lot.
Yeah.
And from that we get into this ratio.
That's why you invest in Bayuti, which is 100%.
I mean, like personally, but again, it's you need to have standards that hold, around the globe, and I think IOFI is doing this kind of job. But personally, for me, 30% is already, I think it's already a lot now.
Yeah. But it's leave that to the scholars. Leave that to the scholars.
Indeed.
Question 3 for 3 points. Which other financial ratio is also capped at 30% for Sharia compliance? So we've got A, interest earning securities of market cap. B is total asset turnover ratio. C is liquidity ratio, which is cash and assets, or D is current ratio, so assets liabilities.
I would say 1.
Correct. Just the interest earning securities. I thought you would get that because obviously you've worked in Islamic banks, so no pressure. Question 4 for 4 points. What's the maximum allowed non-compliant income a company can earn and still be Sharia compliant? So is it 1%? Is it B 3%, C 5%, or D 10%? So what's the maximum allowed non-compliant income?
I hesitate between 5 to 10. I would be conservative. I go 5.
Correct. Just 3 more questions left. So question 5 for 5 points. Which type of risk is permitted in Islamic investing under the concept of gharar? So it's A, selling an asset you do not yet own. So B, uncertainty in product delivery time. C, lack of clear contract terms. Or D, market price fluctuation.
So which one is acceptable?
Which type of risk is permitted?
The first one was?
Selling an asset you do not own.
Well, I think you have the salam contract. So that's permissible, but it's not under gharar.
So
Okay.
The B is uncertainty in the product delivery time.
Okay.
C is lack of clear contract terms.
Yeah.
Or D is market price fluctuation.
I will go for is it B, the one with timing?
Uncertainty in product delivery time.
Yeah.
No, it's a market price fluctuation.
Yeah. Okay.
So excessive uncertainty is prohibited, but market volatility is accepted.
But that is not gharar. Okay. Anyhow. Okay.
We'll double check the answer.
Yeah,
Okay, question 6 for 6 points. What was the approximate value of global Islamic finance assets at the end of 2021? So at the end of 2020, 2021. So you got 3.4 trillion, you got 4 trillion, C is 5 trillion, D is 6 trillion. This is according to the LSE law review.
Well, it's always funny, these numbers, isn't it? How do you calculate that? I don't know. C.
It was A, 3.4 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, trillion. Final question for 7 points. According to Al Jazeera, the value of the global halal economy is expected to reach what by 2025? So you got 5.7 trillion, 7.5 trillion, 7.7 trillion, or 8 trillion.
8 sounds a good number.
They've just gone. Is that your answer?
Yeah, go.
They've just they're just gone a little bit under 7.7 trillion.
7.7.
So that's what the Al Jazeera said. The global Islamic halal economy is set to reach 7.7 trillion by 2025. By end of 2025. How many points did we get? 14 points. Not bad. Out of 21.
So I passed?
It's passed. No worries. You passed. One thing Bayuti has done is you've chosen to avoid debt completely. So obviously people buy houses or buy to let using Islamic finance products, but you've gone away from that and said it's going to be cash funded. What's your reason for that?
Okay. I think we need to remember ourselves that Riba is not an exclusivity of Islam. Meaning that you have Riba is forbidden for Christian and is forbidden for Jewish people as well. So the question is, why religion before us that are older than Islam, today don't really care about usury anymore. And I think it's just a slippery slope. It's just like through time, bit by bit, you get into this habit of chipping out, the block, and in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, people don't care anymore about those things. And I strongly believe that without debt, you cannot have riba. It's very complicated to get riba without debt, whereby when you have debt, it's very easy to fall into riba. So to make sure that we are as far away from riba, because it's a very important sin, just decided to just go for 100% equity. And also, when you look at the economic, all the financial crisis that we had for the last 50 years, they were all linked to debt in one way or the other. And there is just too much debt in the market as well. So rather than adding, fuel to the fire, we just decided, okay, we'll go whatever the Islamic banks are doing, we'll do completely the opposite. And this, like I said, there is a religious aspect of it, but there is also a business aspect of it. And here I'm going to give, an example of airlines. So EasyJet and Ryanair is when they started. They didn't try to compete with British Airways. It's like British Airways. You have your customer, you have your way of doing things. We're not going to challenge that. They created their own business model. No connecting flights, direct only, same kind of fleets, and like they created their own operating model.
Yeah.
They didn't try to be another British Airways. And now today, when you look at who has the most passenger in Europe, I think number one is Ryanair and number two is EasyJet. They passed British Airways. It's like they're not even in the close to those guys. So the idea is, okay, as Islamic finance, we should not try to copy paste what conventional banks are doing. We should try to actually create our own business model, our own operation, our own way of doing things. And because the whole conventional system is built on debt, we want to build up the whole economic system, Islamic economic system, onto equity.
But is that the same reason because you can still have an Islamic finance buy-to-let product?
Nah.
Is that the same reason?
Nah, it's very if you ask 99% of people to explain to you the difference between a buy-to-let Islamic mortgage and a buy-to-let conventional mortgage, 99% of the people will not be able to actually explain the difference between the two.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's
very technical.
Yeah. So like I said, it's too close. So like at the end of the day, I don't want to compete on conventional finance term. I want to compete on our own terms. We have our own value proposition, which is like I said, the opposite of what conventional banks, conventional finance are doing.
So that way you keep it full cash, you're in full control. And if you have one or two bad months where the property is empty or needs disrepair, it doesn't affect the investors either.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Where do you think our community has fallen behind, the Muslim community, in terms of financial literacy? Because we were talking about it a bit earlier, and a lot of people would leave money in their banks because they think it's better, but they don't understand inflation.
Yeah.
People invest in get-rich-quick schemes or invest in stocks where they don't fully understand it. But what's your viewpoint on that?
I think it's all a relationship about money. Spirit. If you think about Islam and spiritually, you should not really like show off your money, talk about money. Even if you give, a charity, you should give it into like a low key, discreet way. So I think because of that, it was very easy to go too far and just not talk about money at all, and therefore be less financially literate, and whereby people will talk about their new iPhone or their new car or whatever, and in terms of consumption, that's something that people talk about, whereby when it comes to money, like if you've done an investment and it's a good investment, you will not talk about it with your family and friends. You keep it more discreet. And I, like I said, I think it's maybe linked to the fact that, we should not, flash, the money around but again, maybe there is a misconception here in terms of money is root of all evil and like all these kind of things rather than.
So we see that a lot in the South Asian community. Is that the same in the North African community, where people they don't talk about financial literacy, basically?
No, non-existent.
At all?
No, you don't talk. No, not at all.
So how is it when you were growing up, or your siblings or your cousins were growing up? What was the relationship with money and the education around money?
No, it was all. It's all directed towards consumption.
Okay.
It's consumption, and even if you do savings, it's to do savings towards consumption.
Interesting.
All this concept of like, being a trustee and being careful and it's not something that really have touched me at a young age. No.
But that leads to a lot of wastage, right? From my
100%. But this is what I was saying earlier: is how come we have the numbers, but we don't have the power? Because when you look at the Muslim community in the Western world or the Muslim community worldwide, and you see the actual power that the community as a Ummah as we have, there is a massive question mark. Why? It's not like we are a small religion of 6 million people. We're into billions, and yet at every country level or it doesn't seem to be very. We don't seem to be very powerful on anything really.
But then, what was your mindset personally, if you were brought up around not really having that full financial literacy, but then going into wealth management? So what was that trigger that flicked your mindset that this is something I need to do?
Sure. So when I was a kid, like a lot of kids wanted to make money, so the thing is just want to make money. It doesn't matter into like how you're going to spend it, but it's just like how are you going to make money? And I remember I was reading an article, and there were three I would say what you call it careers that make you a lot of money. I think the first one was entertainer. I don't have any skills, so didn't try that one. The second one was a footballer or like a sportsman, that kind of thing. Again, not very athletic, so that was not good for me. And the third one was finance. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to jump into the finance wagon. Very quickly, though, I realized that finance is 99% haram. So
You didn't know this before?
No. Not when I think here I'm talking before I go to university.
Okay.
And then when I got to university and started looking, because for me it was like, okay, you can invest in the stock market. Stock market is halal. But then when you get into the nitty-gritty, it's most funds are non, because even most equity funds use leverage. Yeah. So like in any case, like at some point, like I said, the whole ecosystem is based on that. So as I studied finance and economics and everything, you can see that debt is literally at every strat, every level, every layer of the economy. And this is why very quickly I started looking at Islamic finance as the solution, and started looking at how I could work in Islamic finance.
So when you're in wealth management, who are your clients? Was it only the Gulf people in Gulf, or were there?
No, so when I started in wealth management, I was actually based in Singapore. Okay. So in Singapore, it was a mix of Malaysian, Indonesian, some Chinese.
What can Muslims learn from the Chinese people or even the Jewish people in terms of because these people are experts when it comes to making money? What can Muslims learn within our Islamic principles on how we can build wealth for ourselves and within our community from Chinese people, Jewish people?
I think there is 1,001 factor, and I'm sure people must have written books about it. But ultimately, I think the one thing that I've seen personally is trust.
In terms of
Trust.
Like?
They trust each other.
They trust each other.
Yeah. So when you go, when you go and you see the Chinese diaspora around the world, you have one guy. He doesn't work with anybody that's coming from China. The guy is working with the other guys that are coming from his town in China. So they trust each other because they know each other, from way back home, and they stick together. So this trust element is key. So people are helping people that they trust, and those people then help other people that they trust, and there is a trust factor. And it's not a contract, it's not a court or anything like that. You don't see those guys going to court, because the social pressure of failing to your obligation is 10,000 times more important than a court judgment, because again there is this idea of trust and values and who you are as an individual within the community, and I think we trust, but there is so many we had so many Muslims that misused this trust, and so many bad stories.
So that trust, do you think that leads to a lot of Muslims not investing with products like Bayuti or other products, Black Wahid?
I mean, the biggest question that I got these days is, are you legit?
Oh, is it?
That's the first question.
But you have the FCA.
So I'm I've been around for 10 years. I'm FCA-regulated, and we are but we've seen people that have been there for 15 years, and then after it was a Ponzi scheme.
Even though you have FCA everywhere, people are just asking you that.
No, but it's like I said, when you look at my background, work for an investment bank in Qatar, in Singapore, CFA, MBA, FCA-regulated, manage hundreds of millions of pounds, and then the guys are asking you, are you legit? I don't know, man. But I understand. But at the same time, I understand where they're coming from, because all the people that came before me, they told them the same thing. Yeah, of course I'm legit. So how do you differentiate? If you are not a specialist, how do you differentiate between somebody that is a scam and somebody that is legit?
Yeah.
What are the tools? So, again, it comes to education. Funny enough, we thought back in the days that to be FCA regulated, was for us as a investment professional, it's very important. But when we were asking, average people, they didn't even know what the FCA was.
Plus, it is a very long process. If you lose your money through FCA, it's not as if you'll get it back the next day. There's a full process which might have to go to police, which might have to go to court, things like that.
Indeed, but at least I think it still shows, when you are FCA regulated, there is things that you can't and things that you need to say. For example, on our website, it's written you can lose all your money.
Yes.
And it's and people are asking us, I'm investing in property, and it's written you can lose all your money. And I'm yes, but ultimately, it's a FCA, warning. It's not me. It's the FCA as my regulator. Make it for me mandatory to have this message, because even though you invest in property, you invest through a company.
Yeah.
And from the FCA point of view, if you invest in a company, the company value can fluctuate, it can go to zero, because they don't look at what this company is actually buying. Is it property? Is it crypto? Is it gold? Is it, they don't look at that. They just look at the instrument, and the instrument is unlisted shares. So, I have this disclaimer that the FCA, and if tomorrow I come and say, I guarantee you, you will make 100% every month for the next year. The FCA is going to fall on me like straight away. Like, I can't say stuff like that. Whereby people that are not regulated, scammers and stuff, they can go and say whatever not whatever they want, because there will still be criminal charges.
Yeah.
But the FCA is basically making sure that every statement that I make, or I need to prove to the FCA that every statement that I make is actually backed by facts, and I can't just go and sell dreams.
So what tips can you give to the people out there who are not trusting, and to make sure that they don't get scammed?
Okay, so I think we need to be realistic in terms of what does investment means, because people are sometimes mixing investments with gambling. So we need to first, what framework are we talking about? So if you're talking about investment, about building up wealth through time, is it, like I said earlier, there is pillars. Start with things that give you some income. Build up a diversified portfolio, and then instead of investing your own capital into a riskier asset class, you can invest part of your income into this asset class if you want to get a little bit more risky in terms of profile. But for most people, the point is not about getting rich quick kind of thing. Build it up patiently. Anybody that is giving you double digit return, ask yourself questions. And the golden rule is that whatever they promise you up, put a minus in front of it. And ask yourself, am I ready to lose that money? So if somebody comes to you and say, invest with me and you can make 50%, are you ready to lose 50%? Because there is no investment that will give you 50% return in a year without a risk of actually losing 50% of your money. And this rule, again, it's not any particular advice or anything like this. Again, I'm FCA-regulated. I can't say do this, do that. It's just generic educational content, right? Just whatever people give you in terms of return, just think, if I put a minus in front of it, would I be happy to lose this money? So if you invest in property and you're going to get, 5-6% return, am I happy to lose 5-6% return? Okay. But if you go and if somebody is selling you crypto with, 70% return, ask yourself, would I be happy, or can I take a hit of 70%, hit on my capital?
If you can, go for it.
Well, it doesn't. I still will not advise. I still will not advise to go for it. But and this is again, if this is more gambling than investment. Investment is being rewarded for the risk that you're taking, and making sure that, like, basically in time you have more than what you started with. Gambling is well, first of all, we were talking about Gara earlier.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's excessive risk. So and it's very sad, because one of high net worth individuals that I know, his son is studying in the UK. It was his first year. He asked his dad to give him the money, for his education, about 20 grand a year. So he asked his dad to give him 60 grand instead of investing in his education, for him to invest in crypto. So the kid was like, okay, if you give me 60 grand and I do like times 10, 600 grand, I can reinvest it and can do this, I can buy a flat. And he started talking with his dad like, okay, education, it doesn't worth nothing these days. let me take this 16 grand, invest it in crypto, and become a millionaire through it. So this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. This is a thing of like, this is not investment. You know, it's entirely speculation, and the kid might end up, you know, in 2-3 years time with nothing to show for, no education, and waste of, you know, a few years of his life and all his money.
It goes back to, if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true.
Like, but for me, anything double digit, you need to start asking yourself questions.
So did that person get the 60 grand from his father? No.
I told, I don't know if, you know, I think his dad was already against it, but you know, I told him no way. I mean, like, no way. I know that education, you know, doesn't get you, you know, as far as it used to, but like at the end of the day, it's the best investment you can do, you know, when you're young, you know. Now, the quality of the education, you might challenge that. You know, the time spent, you know, in classroom, you can challenge that. But like at the end of the day, education is the best investment you can do towards yourself or your kids, to give them the best, you know, the best start. Because education is not only like a diploma. It's, you know, a workload to handle, you know, a thinking process. Can you stick, especially with the generation today? You know, they don't stick with things. They get bored very quickly.
Yeah, it's a social media generation.
You know, it's for them to actually sit through the courses and sit through a few years, it's becoming more and more difficult because it's so out of tune compared to, you know, the 20-second, you know, TikTok videos that, you know.
So for them to actually build an FCA-regulated product, they probably lose patience.
100%. But this is why we need to build it for them.
So I want to go back to Bayuti. There are a lot of Islamic fintech products. In property crowdfunding, there's a few as well. There's Nesta, there's Yoders, there's Wahid, very big name players. Curate as well have a real estate fund. So what made you think that, okay, we are going to compete with these? Because essentially you're still competitors. And what made you feel that Bayuti was a right way to compete with these people?
Yeah, I think again, like when you look at most of the names that you mentioned, at some level there is debt involved in the process. Wahid
with the others.
Yeah, Wahid is a wealth management platform, so it's a different approach, you know, altogether. If you want to invest in US stocks or anything like that, yeah, go for it. You know, go with them. That's fine. We are not trying to be everything for everybody at the same time. Our focus is property. What we are doing is property. What we have been doing for the last 10 years is property, and our play is property. The second bit is we don't do that. So most of the fintech, one way or the other, use leverage and use debt. I think we must be one of the only one available in the market that actually you know, have zero debt in their product at any stage, not at the business level, not at the SPV level, nothing. And finally, I think also it's a matter of transparency. When you invest with us, you actually know exactly where your money goes, so you can see the property, you know, that you are investing in. It's not a dark pool where, you know, you just give the money and then you don't know where it goes and what you own or anything like that. So the combination of no debt, knowing exactly where your money goes, and being a specialist on the property sector make it a unique value proposition today in the market.
Would you ever go into the home finance space, but not in the...
already in.
But in the sense, in the home ownership, so someone wants to buy a house. Oh, you're already in that space with Bayuti.
We have another product called Crowd to Live.
Okay. So it's in my mind now. So I was thinking about it because it's like, if someone has a deposit, example of 100,000.
Yeah, we have been doing that. So we launched Bayuti. In December last year. before that, our product was Crowd to Live, which is a home financing plan that allow people to buy their home without debt through a musharaka structure, a shared ownership.
So I'm just thinking aloud, just for the structure, it would be if someone has if a house is worth 500
Yeah.
and someone has 500,000, by the way,
Yeah.
and if someone has 100,000 deposit, they own 20%,
Yeah.
and they pay rent for the 80%,
Yeah,
and then the
exactly.
crowdfunders would fund 80%,
Yeah.
and then they get their exit or returns,
Yeah.
and that's basically the product.
Yeah, that's Crowd to Live.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it's good to know that you have that product as well.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, brilliant. I want to talk about Bayuti on a much larger scale, because you're in a very early stage. Even though you've been around for a few years, it's still a very, very early stage.
Yeah.
But where do you see yourself in a few years, but on a global level, and affecting Muslims building their wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and like we were mentioning earlier, affecting media, politics, and everything that goes around us?
Mm-hmm. So there is one of the questions that could pop up is why we started with property and why we started with Crowd to Live as well. And the reason for that is that ultimately investing in your home is the biggest investment anybody is going to do, 99% of the population is going to do in their lifetime. And the interesting thing with that is that once you've done that, you have a big chunk of money being stuck in that property. So you might end up, having a property that's worth 500,000, and you might, I don't know, own 300,000 pounds of it. But on the other side, you're going to go and get car finance for 10,000 pounds, 20,000 pounds. So you have this big asset, and at the same time, you go and get financing, and this is why, we started with Crowd to Live. Is right now, the process is that you can only staircase. So you own 10%, then you own 15%, and you can only go up. The idea ultimately is to be able to provide any kind of finance backed by your home. So tomorrow, if you want to buy a car that's worth 20,000, you just decrease your ownership.
Oh, you just
by
sell your shares, basically.
Yeah, a release of equity. And then your rent will increase a little bit.
Okay.
And like this, you can provide, a Riba-free,
Yes.
full ecosystem for any kind of financing that you can do. And this is why we started with Crowd to Live, because that's the biggest pot. Once you have this biggest pot, built, then you can do release of equity for any kind of product.
And also, technically, it's not a debt.
No. It's not. Of course,
So
it's not debt.
because that's something people think about. Oh, it's still financing, but it's not
no
a debt.
debt.
So
There is
even
no
when, example, you pass away, then you don't have that debt.
No.
Whatever you own.
Nothing need to be repaid.
Okay. So is your ultimate vision more around Crowd to Live and Bayuti, or like explain to me your ultimate vision?
Yeah. So ultimately, what I want to do is to build up a full ecosystem of debt-free financial services. So a truly Sharia compliant, debt-free ecosystem. From A to Z, there is no debt, but you still have the facility to have finance, to manage your finance, to be able to invest, to be able to get finance to buy other things, student loans. That's a big subject. How do we get, our community into getting exam degrees without getting student loans in the equation? How do we help them, finance the first car purchase if they want to, or anything really, the washing machine, whatever, and we need to create the whole thing. We need to create a full ecosystem that is independent from interest, independent from England Central Bank, rates set up, and that is truly Sharia compliant. And I think we can do it. I mean, we're trying to send people on Mars, so I think it's doable.
It's possible.
It's hard, and it will take a bit of time. But if it's not me that finish the journey, at least I would have put the pillars for the next generation to come and do it. And I think, again, earlier you were talking about different communities. The same thing with the Chinese. The Chinese, they don't think, 5 years, 10 years, they speak like way for many generations to come. So, and again, as they have the Muslim mentality, if you think about it, they have the Muslim mentality, because if you think of yourself as just, a traveler that's going to stay a little bit on earth and then go, and you think of yourself as just a trustee, everything then changes in terms of how you see life, what you're doing, and so on and so forth.
So one thing I always say is that we need to build with a vision of 150 years, because that way it outlasts you.
Yeah.
And this is something that we need to invest into our own future, for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren,
Indeed.
but also the benefit of the Muslim Ummah. And this is how the Ottoman Empire was built. This is how the Andalusia Empire was built. All of these empires, that's how they were built, because they thought that far ahead.
Yeah.
So how do you feel Bayuti can actually contribute to that? Because one way I can already think of is having a complete debt-free model, which means that you are going against the grain of the Western world, which means the governments won't like you and the banks won't like you, which obviously you're aware of.
Yeah.
That's one way that Muslims can strategically invest. And it's a big way, because debt runs the world.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned earlier, with debt, a lot of problems happen, and there's a lot of people get crippled, and that's how people get into get-rich-quick schemes and invest in crypto at 100%.
Yeah.
But how do you see Bayuti with the 150-year vision? And also, how can Bayuti then contribute to the wider infrastructure, which is schools, media, politics, tech?
Yeah, everything. I think, like, ultimately, I see financial services as a sector that should empower people, and one of the main critiques that I have, to the conventional financial system is that it becomes its own economy, detached from, the real world. When you look at the amount of transactions that are being done in the market, I think about 80% of transactions are basically just banks playing with themselves.
Yes.
Doesn't actually, interact with the real economy. So it becomes this animal alone that is just auto-feeding, itself. And I think, what I'm trying to build is actually a financial system that empowers people by providing the financial tools to realize whatever they want to do in an ethical way. So it's, for me, what we're trying to do is all about empowerment, and it's all about connecting, because, the problem that you have is the same as the problem that your neighbor have.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, if we come together, and again, community, in Islam, we do almost everything as a community.
The neighbors have rights over us.
We Friday we pray together. It's better to pray as a community. We do everything as a community. But then when it comes to finance and investment, and that stops. We stop doing it. And then we lost, I think we are losing opportunities. And what we're trying to do is really to empower people. So, like, at the end of the day, finance, investments, get you where you need to go, or where you want to go. So if there is one vision, like in 150 years time, if we can be the financial system that empowers people, that would be fantastic.
One final question before we finish: what does a Muslim pound mean to you?
I think there is a clear alignment between what you guys are trying to do and what we're trying to do.
Yes.
I think you are doing it on an educational level and trying to promote a few brands. Our focus is, I know what I know, and I don't want to go outside of that. So I'm a finance and investment guy, so I focus on that bit. I think your mandate is larger, but again,
It's
and
very
need,
similar.
needs to be need to be supported. And yeah, we would. It's aligned, and it's definitely part of the right ecosystem that we're happy to be in.
Brilliant. Anwar, Jazakallah khair.
Shukran.
And I wish you all the best with Bayuti. It's a
Ameen.
brilliant product, and I hope you can fulfill your wider 150-year vision as well.
Allah, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salama.